how can I feel okay about what I charge? How do I stop apologizing when people ask me my prices? And how do you stand by your prices? This week I was asked this question, and I want to dive deeper into this because it is so vital for the health of your business, for your profitability, for the fact if people buy from you or they don't, and for your own confidence level in your business. Because if you don't feel confident in your prices, you're not going to be able to share your prices. It's a matter of your mental well-being. If you're constantly feeling conflicted about your prices, it's really going to slow down all of the speed in your business. The more confidence you have when discussing your prices, the more sales you're going to make. Welcome to Explore Your Enthusiasm, episode 194 with me, Tara Swiger. Today we're going to talk about how you can get really confident and grounded in your prices so you can share more and make more sales. First, we really got to talk about not apologizing for your prices or apologizing for your prices, especially if you need to raise your prices or change your prices. This is something tons of my clients come up against, and you got to be confident when you do it. So let's talk about apologizing. You really need to stop apologizing. Stop apologizing. And I don't just mean verbally apologizing, because maybe you don't do that, but also approaching the whole situation apologetically. Well, I charge this much for my ticketing, but no, that's apologetically. And I want you to really think about this. When I got asked, how do I stop apologizing for my prices? I thought, what are you apologizing for? No, I mean, really, what are you apologizing for? Think about it. Are you apologizing because you're afraid that the other person can't afford it? If so, that's none of your business. And it's also insulting, and it's just weird. In no other business do they worry about if we can afford their product or not, right? That's not the business's job when they set the prices. Imagine if you sold cars. Do you apologize if someone comes in looking for a Honda instead of a Mercedes? Do you say, oh, I'm sorry, you can't afford that Mercedes? No, that would be horrible. And if you're a Mercedes dealer, do you apologize when people can't afford you? No, you say, okay, go buy another car. That's fine. I'm fine. Right? Your groceries, your clothing. No one says, oh my gosh, you can't afford that. I'm so sorry. So why do we as small business owners do it? I think it's because we feel more connected with our customers, and you are an individual who has your own personal financial background. So you think about that background when you sell something to someone, but it's really, really not appropriate for the relationship. And it can also actually make you make all kinds of bad assumptions. So I actually had a friend who told me about this doctor who would do essential oil classes. And when he would share essential oils with other doctors, he'd recommend the kit that was bigger, that actually had a bigger amount of savings, but it also cost more, right? So you spend $400, but you save $100 on getting all kinds of product. But when he would do classes with people who weren't doctors, he would always recommend the cheapest kit, which doesn't have as much products and doesn't have as much savings. And someone went to two of his classes, I think it was one of his colleagues, pointed out to him and said, you realize you're being a horrible person. You're assuming that people who aren't doctors don't make enough money to afford to buy the thing that you think is actually the best thing for them to buy. You don't want that, right? You don't want to be that person who's thinking, well, I've seen your website. Maybe you can't afford my graphic design package. No, that's not who you want to be. And also you have to realize other people have different financial realities than you do. If they're hiring your tech editing service because they're a knitwear designer, they might make good money being a knitwear designer, or they might have a job as a college professor, which several of my small business owner clients actually have a job as a professor that pays them all they need to hire all of the people in their life that they need. If you're a knitwear designer, your knitters, they could be anything. They could be stay-at-home moms. They could be full-time doctors. They could be diplomats in third world countries. You don't know what they can afford, and to make the assumption that everybody has a financial life like you do is just ridiculous. Obviously that's not true, and it's just inappropriate for you to assume what people can afford. Instead, how the market works is that you set the price based on a bunch of things, which we're going to talk about: the value, the quality, the time it takes, your skill level, and the market, the people, decide if that is something they can afford or not. So it's not your job to apologize for it. Now, sometimes I hear, well, I don't want to charge too much because I want as many people as possible to be able to afford my work. If that's the case, then I really want you to consider creating a charity or a scholarship program, or a way you donate your time or services. So I'm not being facetious when I say create a charity or a scholarship program. I'm really serious. If you're doing something that you feel like everybody needs to have access to, then find a way to give everybody access to it. That's actually why I create these podcast episodes, because I'd have conversations with people and I'd be like, I want to share this with everybody. And I want to be able to talk about it and not like make it a class is totally different. In a class, I create multiple worksheets. I structure everything so you can learn it in the right order. I give feedback and ideas and do Q&As, and the worksheets are all about you applying it to your own business. Well, I want to talk about these things without doing all that extra work, so I do it for free on the podcast. I think everybody needs to grow in their confidence so their business can thrive. So I have the free Biz Confidence Challenge. That's totally free. But I know from experience, the flip side of that is from experience, I know that people are going to get more out of a program that you pay for. So my deep dive classes, which require you to do a lot of work in order to apply it to your business and get the most out of it, they cost money, because that first initial investment of money will actually, studies show that it will ensure you invest more time and energy in the thing. So partly I do it for your own getting value out of what I create, because I can tell you, if I charged for each of these podcast episodes, you would apply them at such a higher level than you do because you're listening to them for free and you're listening to them while you do other stuff. If you had paid, let's say $50, $100 for this one podcast episode, you would be taking notes, you'd be writing everything down, you'd go print out the transcript, you'd apply it to your own business, you make sure you get your $50 out of it, right? So that's part of it, is for your own value. I need to charge. Now, the other layer of this is I charge enough to make it clear what stage in your business each class is right for. So you can make a map for your business and your life from day one, even when you don't have a business yet. So I made it available in a $25 book. But the work you're going to do and pay yourself, the class pay yourself, you need to know what your products are. You need to know what your materials cost. You need to know how much time it takes you. So your business needs to be at the stage where you know that thing. So it costs an amount of money that reflects that your business is at that stage. The same thing is true for you guys. If you're doing tech editing for a knitwear design business, do you want to do tech editing for knitters who are just starting to design and all of that? Or do you need to charge enough to make sure that they're actually making some sales so their designs are going to come to you and it's going to be easier to work with them? Is that the kind of client you serve? So your price not only makes it available to a bigger or smaller swath of people, it also helps people self-select that they're the right customer for that product to get the most use out of it. Now, the other question is, are you apologizing because you would dare to charge this much? Is this an internal thing, an internal confidence thing, or a block you have about making money? Do you think work has to be hard to be valuable, or that you have to work at something unpleasant in order for it to make money? A lot of people don't think that they can have fun and get to make money. So they'll say, well, I can't raise my prices. I really enjoy doing what I do. What does that have to do with it? No, literally, think, what does it have to do with it in any other business? So what if a doctor is having a good time? Maybe he's in surgery and he's working with his favorite people and he's got his favorite music blasting and he's enjoying what he's doing. If you watch Grey's Anatomy, then you will be led to believe that surgeons love to do surgery. So should he charge less if he does a really great brain surgery just because he enjoyed it? And what about artists like Monet? If he loved making art, does it make the art less valuable? Of course not. The person's enjoyment of doing the thing. Your car mechanic might love working on cars. It doesn't change the value to you, the person who doesn't love working on cars and wants to pay him to do it. So if you've been apologetic with anyone about your prices, I really want you to take a minute and ask yourself which of these things apply to you. So ask, what am I sorry for? And what do I need to work on? Is it a confidence thing? Is it like a belief that I have about money that it has to be hard, or it has to be unpleasant, or it has to be what somebody else tells me to do in order for it to be valuable? Is it that I am making assumptions about what people can afford to pay or not afford to pay based on my own background? So think about that, work on that, journal on that, tap on that, figure out what you can do to help move past that if it's you causing the apology. And let me just let you know, you're going to be way less apologetic about your work when you get really grounded in the value of it, the benefit it brings to other people, the value that it brings into their life. So focus on your value. Your product costs what it costs for a reason. The time it takes you, the quality of the materials, the demand that people have for it, your skill set and how long you've been doing it and what you've trained under and what you've learned. Your price means nothing without the context of that value. So first, you need to get really clear on the context of that value for yourself and then ground into it. Remind yourself of it. Write it down. Read it over again and again and again. Remind yourself of the value. Your own comfort in talking about this is going to make a huge difference. And here's the thing. It's no one else's job but yours to get comfortable in talking about it. It's no one's job to figure out the value. It's your job to express and communicate that value. So I was talking to Jay about this, and he was telling me about a comic book shop owner that we met in Oregon. And this comic book shop owner had taken over a comic shop where the previous owner had all of these statues that they couldn't sell. These are $300 to $400 comic book based statues, and they don't do anything, which for me, I'm like, I don't understand why you'd have that statue. It doesn't do anything. And the former owner apparently felt the own way because he had a really hard time selling them. But the new owner has no problem selling them. They fly off the shelves. He actually has started ordering more and more expensive statues, like $800 statues, $1,000 statues, because they fly off the shelf because people keep buying them. You know what the difference is? How he talks about them. The other owner was like, oh yeah, we have some statues up there you could also get if you were really into Deadpool, I guess. There's a statue of him on a motorcycle. It's $500. I know, it's $500. Now, the new owner talks about it like, oh my gosh, look what just came in. These are limited edition. They're only $500. And how amazing is this? Look at this detail. Look at this. I don't even know what the benefits and value of it is, but he focused on that. He talked about how cool they were, how rare they are, which is true. And he was enthusiastic about it because he thought they were super cool. He's like, who would not want this in their living room? And when he approached it like that, his customers were like, you're right. I would love this in my living room. And so they bought it. Now the same customer can be told, oh, well, you know, it's $500. I don't know. And what did you just do? You just embedded doubt. Even if you really wanted it, now he's like, are you going to judge me if I spend $500 on that? Whereas if you're like, oh my goodness, this is so cool, the customer is going to be like, you're right, that is cool. So you being grounded and you being enthusiastic and you believing in it makes all the difference. So Jay asked me this when we were talking. He was like, well, what about you when you sold handspun yarn? He's like, I remember people would come in your craft show booth and be like, $25 for 100 yards? This is handspun, thick, bulky yarn. And I would go, yeah, so I make it right here on the spinning wheel. Let me show you. I'll sit down and start spinning, and they'd start watching me, and then they'd be like, how long does it take? I'd say, well, it took me over an hour to make that skein of 100 yards. And that's actually after I had it dyed. Before I even sat down to start spinning, I dyed the wool myself. And this is stripy yarn, so it's several colors. And that actually takes, you know, all of the dyeing time and then the drying time. And then I spun it together like this. So you're looking at quite a few hours of my work. It's just $25. Do you see? Now that is a total, and people would be like, wow, yeah. And then I would go into the benefit and the value for them. Well, what's awesome about this is you can whip up a hat in just a couple hours. Do you have a toddler in your life? Because my yarn is all toddler colors. And that is just a totally different place than like, yeah, I know, I made it myself, so I don't know, it's only $25. That's just a different vibe you're going to bring to it, and it's going to make people more comfortable or less comfortable. Anything you sell is like this. You need to get grounded in the value, whether it's you and your services, whether it's essential oils, whether it's your painting, whether it's your handmade bags. You need to believe that you're charging the amount you're charging because they're worth that much. And actually they're worth more, and this is a great price. Now, the next step. Okay, we've talked about apologizing. We've talked about getting grounded into value. You also need to stop overthinking this. I have helped dozens and dozens of makers raise their prices. And this is what I've learned. 99% of people don't say anything. They might not even notice it. If you don't publicly announce it, people don't notice it. They don't remember what your yarn cost last time they bought it. They don't remember what your last print was. And even when you announce your price raise, very, very few people say anything negative. In fact, most of the sellers I worked with who've done this, their sales go up. This is true for service providers like tech editors and graphic designers. This is true for knitwear designers. This is true for product sellers like people who dye yarn and make cards and make paintings. Their sales go up. Not just their profit, which would make sense, right? If you sell 5 cards a month for $5 and then you raise it to $6 and you sell 5, you're going to make more money. But their actual number of sales go up when they increase their prices. That doesn't make sense, right? If you're all afraid people will stop buying my work if I charge more, why would they go up? It's because price reflects value. We believe that something's price and its value should be tied really close together. So if you've been spending time talking about the benefit and the value of what you do, but your prices were low, when people looked at it, they didn't think, oh, what a good deal. They thought, why are those prices so low? So there's a thing called cognitive dissonance, where things don't line up when we think about them. There's dissonance. They're not lining up quite right. You might never consciously think it, but subconsciously it's going, if it's really that great, why is it so cheap? Maybe it's not that great. I bet she skimped on the quality. Maybe it doesn't have really great seams. Maybe the fabric is kind of cheap and flimsy. And when you're buying something online, this is especially true. If you have beautiful hand-blown glass jewelry and you're charging $10 for a set of earrings, I'm going to think, is it really hand-blown glass? I mean, that takes a long time. How could she be doing that for so cheap? I bet she's not doing it. Maybe she's outsourcing it. I'm not sure. There's just something in my head that doesn't believe it's what you're telling me it is. So when you raise the prices appropriately, now I think, oh, well, that is a really nice quality piece of jewelry. I'm going to invest in that. So you see, raising the prices, not something that you have to be worried about people commenting on. And in fact, everything might get better once you do it. You don't know unless you try. Now, if you do get people commenting on your price, the answer is that you need to change how you're talking about it. You need to focus more on the benefit or the value for the person. Because again, the price means nothing without context. So are you providing the context? Are you providing the context on conversations, on sales pages, on social media? You should regularly, everything about your work should be providing the context for the price you're charging. Everything. So, if you want to stand by your prices and you want to get confident in saying your prices without apologizing, here are the steps. Number 1, stop expecting complaints. When you expect people to talk about the price, they talk about the price. Your energy is low. You're like, I'm sorry. And so they're like, why does it cost so much? You seem like you don't really think it should cost as much. So stop expecting complaints. 2, stop apologizing. Don't do it. Don't be apologetic. Or else change your prices. If you're going to continue to be apologetic, then you got to change something. I'd rather you change your own view of it, but if you need to, lower your prices till you're not apologetic about it anymore. Now, that's not a method that's going to keep you in business or profitable for long, but you got to do something to stop being apologetic. Number 3, acknowledge where you are in the market. So you are not trying to sell yarn at Walmart. You are not selling prints at Target. You are hand making your thing, or you are selling a product that is sourced beautifully, that is sustainable, that is environmentally friendly, that is organic, whatever it is. Where are you in the market? You are not competing with 100% of people who sell a similar item. You're competing with no one because you are at a very special place in the market because of your skills and your abilities and your product and your marketing. So where is that? Acknowledge where that is. Then get grounded. The 4th step, get grounded in the value. And another way to think about this, as I was writing about this, I realized it's also values, like your audience's values. What do they value in the world? So when I talk about essential oils, the essential oil company I work with, doTERRA, sources the oils directly from the harvesters and distillers themselves. So most oils like frankincense are sold on the open market. That means that a harvester went out to his land that he has tribal rights to harvest on. He harvested it. He sold it to a middleman who sold it to a middleman who then sold it to the company that's at your health food store. But doTERRA goes right to that man and buys it, and it is men who have tribal rights to harvest it, pays him 10 times more because it's paying him directly, and then gets a better quality, and then sends in sustainability experts. So when we're paying more for that frankincense, we're paying for the money to go right to the harvester. We're also paying for sustainability experts to go in and teach them sustainable harvesting practices. Now that is explaining the value in terms of what I value. So I value fair trade payment. I value sustainability and harvesting. I value taking care of the earth and taking care of the inhabitants on the earth, no matter where they live and what they do. So those, did you see how I was talking about it? I got all excited because that is internal values. If you're selling your handmade thing to someone and they value handmade, that's part of the price. That's part of the context of the value. You need to make sure that you're communicating that. You need to make sure you are really in alignment with it. And then that when all your communication is reflecting that. And the fifth step, express the values and benefits at all times. All times. Keep in mind your values, your audience values, and then express that. Make sure that it is just being demonstrated everywhere. So if you are thinking maybe you need to raise your prices, or you're feeling like, is my profit margin any good? She said profit margin, I don't know. You can learn all of that in my class, Pay Yourself. It does cost money. You can find it at taraswiger.com/pay. And if you want to revisit anything from today, if you need to work through this slowly, get the most value out of it, you can go to taraswiger.com/podcast194, because this is episode 194. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you an enthusiastic week and confidence in your prices.